Hello, um, I'm here with another video, and I thought I would just talk a little about what's going on the IELTS test these days. Before getting into very official tips, what to do and how to read stuff, books, recommendations, stuff like that, I thought I would just come and talk a little about my own experience with the latest IELTS test that I took. And that was in December. And I scored 9 in speaking, so I thought I would just come and share what type of questions I was asked and how I answered. And since I assume that this is going to be quite a long video, I'm going to cut it into different parts and post it so that it wouldn't be too much for just one video. Yeah, so I took this test in December 2020, and well, it usually takes between 11 to 14 minutes, the whole test. But the funny thing was that you don't really feel the flow of time since you're constantly thinking about giving good answers. The same thing happened to me, and I didn't realize when I had to stop. And that was absolutely okay because you don't really need to worry about this. Time management is not your responsibility, it's the examiner's. And you just need to concentrate on giving good and enough answers. So for the first part, there are usually two classic types of questions that they ask you. It's either home or hometown, or work or studies. It could be more, it will be more, but at the beginning of it, it's usually either of these two. And if they ask you home or hometown, they're not going to ask you about work or studies. And the same applies to work and studies. You're just going to talk about one. And in my case, that was home or hometown. And I believe the examiner asked, tell me a little about the home you used to live in with your family back home. And I think the exact form of the question was, did you used to live in a house or in an apartment? It's a casual thing. They usually ask this very same question for home or hometown at the very beginning. And then I said, well, it was an apartment. We had a yard and a pool, and during summer, my friends and I used to play in the yard. And the thing is, I wasn't really thinking about what I was going to say because she had asked about a memory of mine, and I was just telling her about how it really was. So I could feel this flow of information just coming into my mind, and I was reading, just through it, and without any hesitation. And I was not paying attention to the time. For the first part, the first speaking part, they will help you. You have to be cooperative. When they ask you to stop, you should stop. And that happened. I was in the middle of my sentence when she asked me to stop, and she went on to the next question. So again, it's absolutely normal to be interrupted by the examiner. It's okay. It should happen, and it's absolutely all right. What is not okay is that you constantly stop speaking while you still have time. That could lead to losing points, and you don't want that to happen. So keep talking until you get interrupted. That would be my tip. I believe the next question was about bindings, about the things that I love, things that I bind with. And I talked about books. I mentioned the fact that I'm an author, and I said, well, it's mostly books. Well, it was actually the true thing. I mean, I didn't really think of something random, because in some situations when you have no idea you should do that, you have no other choice. But in my case, it was actually the truth. And then I talked about some books I loved, and that was it, actually. I don't remember exactly the same words I used, but I believe I talked about the fact that since I'm an author, I'm actually in love with books. And that was pretty much it. And the conversation went on, and she asked me about whether I read children books during my childhood. And at first I said, yes, I did. I did, in fact. And then I asked her if I should name them, which I thought, well, this was not normal, but in order to understand the question in a very right way, I asked her if I should name them. She said, okay, go on. And then I talked about Tintin. I said, well, yes, I used to read all the issues. I had all the issues, and it was actually my favorite comic. So, yeah, Tintin. There was also one thing that I forgot to mention, and that was for the first question, home or hometown. She asked me about the house that I'm living in right now, and she asked, what are the differences between the apartment or the house that you're living in right now with your family's house? And what I said was, well, of course, my family's apartment was much more spacious. It was quite larger. And the thing I love about my apartment, which is a student apartment, is the fact that I'm a lot more independent. I have my own privacy, and I can manage everything by my own, and that's what I love about it. And I don't really care if it's not as large as my previous home. It's quite good. And that was it for the first part. I will post the second part. I will talk about the second part in the next videos. Don't forget to like my video. Just put comments if you like, just typical YouTube stuff people say. And take care. Goodbye.